My name is Danny Nierenberg, and I am president and co-founder of the organization Food Tank. And we're a research and advocacy organization that really likes to highlight stories of hope and success in the food system. I'm really, really excited to be here today to moderate this panel on fact-checking food, which, of course, I want to thank Land O'Lakes and the Washington Post for putting this together. This is really a panel to get around the hype and the misconceptions and sometimes the lies that we hear about food and agriculture. And I really want to dive right in because from the latest fad diet to solving world hunger, most of what we believe sometimes is really based on misconceptions around food and agriculture. And today, these three amazing experts, who are all women, by the way, I want to wish them all happy belated International Women's Day. It's not often that I get to moderate a panel of all women. They're going to fact check what we know about food and agriculture issues and really help solve some of the most pressing problems in food and agriculture, including hunger and obesity, the loss of biodiversity, and really finding ways to make sure that food is accessible, affordable, nutritious, and safe for everyone. And again, they're really some of the leading thinkers in the food system. I'm just going to introduce them all very quickly. You can find more about them on the website. First, we'll have Jennifer Vandelait, a professor at the University of Minnesota College of Veterinary Medicine and the Associate Director of Food Protection and Defense of the Food Protection and Defense Institute, which sounds both terrifying and really, really cool. So thank you for being here. Our second speaker will be Marie Haga, who's the Executive Director of the Crop Trust. I've known Marie for a long time, and there's really no bigger champion for biodiversity in the food system. She told me today that her very first job was growing cabbages on a small farm in Norway. So this is really part of her DNA. And our final speaker will be Marcy Glickman. Marcy is a scientist working with Origin, a company that is selling direct-to-consumer genetic tests, and they are developing cell therapies to impact multiple types of diseases. So let's give them all a round of applause very quickly. Thank you. Thank you so much. This will be a very interactive panel, and that's why I'm excited about it, because it depends on all of you. You have these really cool paddles or fans, if you get hot, that are under your seat, so make sure you can find them. It's important. You have to be engaged during this panel. You can't sleep. You can't scroll through Instagram. You have to watch these speakers because you have to make decisions. And I also hope you'll share quotes on social media. But again, don't scroll through Instagram. The interaction is really key because each of our panelists will be making a statement about a trend or a challenge related to the future of food. And then all of you get to be our fact checkers. When the time comes, and I'll let you know, you'll be able to raise your paddles to say, was their statement fact or fiction? Do you believe it? These will be really fun and engaging speeches, super short, so you won't have time to scroll, and you'll get to vote. So I really just want to dive right in and start with Jennifer from the University of Minnesota.
Perfect. So were we going to show the questions?
We're going to start with question 1.
Great. You're going to have to remind me. I did not memorize my question.
That's okay.
Thank you.
It's going to come
I apologize.
behind you.
There it is.
So
okay.
The lack of food causes world hunger.
The lack of food causes world hunger. Fact or fiction? I see almost everybody has put up fiction, and you are correct. This is a false statement. Believe it or not, almost a third of the global food supply is lost or wasted. We produce enough food in the world to feed 2 billion people, and there are only around 800 million people that are currently classified as being hungry. Most of this food loss or waste, so food loss is where you lose food in production and distribution, and food waste is where food that is safe for humans to eat is used somewhere else or thrown away. In developing nations, food loss primarily occurs in processing and distribution. So if you think about it, in many parts of the world, if you are transporting things like fruits and vegetables, if you can't keep them cool, they're going to go bad. In the US and in developing nations, most of the food is either actually while it's being grown through things like natural disasters or in things that you and I can do every day to change food waste. To put it in scale, about 45% of the fruits and vegetables produced around the world are lost or wasted. This is over almost 4 trillion apples. If you look at like seafood, 35% of seafood is lost or wasted. That's the equivalent of 3 billion salmon. It's an amazing amount of food. And in the US, in developing nations alone, we waste almost as much food as the entire food production net in sub-Saharan Africa. So it's something that we can really change.
Very sobering, very sobering. Thank you all for voting. Our next question will be answered by Marie Haga from the Crop Trust. And it is, so we all decided that was fiction, right? We're all good on that? Good. So 12 crops and 5 animal species make up 75% of the food we consume. Fact or fiction?
It varies a little in the room, but most of you have it as a fact, and that is true. But I think actually even more astonishing is that 60% of the calorie intake globally comes from 4 crops, 4 plants, from rice, corn, and potatoes. And so when you walk into a supermarket and you see all these thousands and thousands of products, if you go behind the label, what you find is basically just a few plants, few crops that have contributed to whatever is in there, plus a bit of flavor and a bit of color maybe. There is roughly 30,000 plants around the globe that we could eat. And we should absolutely encourage people to diversify their diets because so many of these plants are much higher in nutritional value. They can be produced much more sustainably than these 4 crops that basically feed us. But there is another side to diversity, and that is the diversity within crops. So, you know, we have roughly 1,000 varieties of banana, 3,000 varieties of coconut, 4,500 varieties of potatoes, 35,000 varieties of corn, 125,000 varieties of wheat, almost 200,000 varieties of rice around the globe. And the question is, of course, then why is that important? Why is it important to safeguard all of that diversity? And that is because this diversity is really the raw material that we use when we adapt plants to new conditions. And these days, our plants are really struggling. I think the main threat to food security, yes, we shouldn't waste, but the main threat to food security is actually that the climate changes faster than our plants are able to adapt. So now we really need to use that diversity to be able to adapt these plants to, for example, higher temperature or higher salinity in the soil to fight a new pest, a new disease, give higher nutritional value that they can keep better actually for a longer period of time. So we really need now to safeguard what we have of this diversity because it provides options. In the US, you have lost more than 90% of fruit and vegetable varieties since the beginning of the 1900s. In China today, they use 10% of the rice varieties that they used to use in 1950. And you know, for each variety lost, we've lost options. So let's be sensible enough. Let's safeguard what we have left. We know how to do it technically. It's not complicated. We know it doesn't cost much. To safeguard all of these amazing plans for food security will only cost $34 million a year. If we had, in the endowment fund that the Crop Trust operates, $850 million, we could actually forever safeguard all of these crops and this diversity. $850 million, a lot of money, but less than a soccer stadium these days.
Before we turn to Marcy, I want to ask you both, in 30 seconds, what are your recommendations for consumers, for regular eaters, the folks in this room? What can they do to protect food security, what can they do to protect biodiversity? 30 seconds.
So from a food waste perspective, see what's in your refrigerator. Don't let things go to waste. First in, first out. Eat what you have. Think about portion sizes. In the US, we have incredible portion sizes. Divide it, take some home, eat it for lunch the next day. And my personal favorite, I always try to buy the Lonely Banana. The Lonely Banana in the grocery store is the one that's been plucked off the bunch because somebody didn't want to buy a whole bunch. It's one of the biggest food waste items in grocery retail, so I always try to buy the Lonely Banana.
Love it, Lonely Bananas. Marie.
As consumers, I think you should demand diversity, and you should also experience the beauty of diversity. Try something new. There's so much delicious stuff out there, and just play around with it. Secondly, ask decision makers in politics and in business to contribute to safeguarding this diversity that we still have left out there. And thirdly, I would say that you could go to the Crop Trust webpage and donate a bit of money on the webpage.
Good plug, good plug. Finally, let's turn to Marcy with the final question, question 3, which is there's one diet that's healthiest for everyone, for all consumers.
All right, so how many people think that that's fact or fiction? Oh, we have a very educated audience there. Most people are saying fiction, and you're right. It is fiction, because in fact, that's why there's so many diets out there, is because there isn't one size that fits all. And actually, one way you can learn about what might be the best for you is based on the fact that even though our DNA, if you look at the sequence of our DNA, you probably all know it consists of these letters that create genes that tell our cells basically the plan. 99.9% of your DNA is the same as everybody else's. But it's that 0.1% that's scattered throughout all of our genes that are different. And this is what gives us curly hair, or our characteristics around taste or around metabolism. And so those differences are really what makes us different, and a way you can customize how what is best for you. And so we vary from each other based on metabolism. So you probably know those people that can eat a lot and they don't seem to gain a pound, and then others of us in which we really have to watch what we eat, because you go out to dinner too many times, this wonderful food environment in Austin, and you see that you're starting to put on weight. So our metabolism can change from each other. Also, there's actually a variant in a gene called feeling full. So some people can eat and they know when to stop, they're full. And other people actually, like my husband, is missing this feeling full gene. So it used to be that at a restaurant, after I stopped eating, he would go and eat my food as well, until he realized that actually, he's missing this signal, and that he should really, be more conscious of portions. And then this also goes for healthy, eating healthily. So even how we absorb and metabolize vitamins from foods varies from individuals. And so even though you might be eating a healthy diet, you may be deficient in certain vitamins. And so it's also good to look at what your risks are for that, and you can be tested as well, and either have supplements or make sure you eat enough of that food so you're not deficient in that vitamin. So, and then taste, we all have different tastes. So some people, it's like, where are you going to dinner? Well, I really like such and such a kind of food. It's probably based on, to a certain extent, what tastes good to you. And we have many taste receptors in our mouths, and so this is another thing that varies from person to person. So it's really important to think and learn about yourself and be able to customize your diet, just from a health perspective, as well as just maintaining healthy weight.
So Marcy, as a scientist and as an entrepreneur with this new company, how does your work help consumers, again, the folks in this room, understand what they should eat?
Yeah, so we have direct-to-consumer genetic tests and around nutrition, for example, so that you can learn about your genetics, and people can just buy it on our website, or we actually also have a booth here at South by Southwest, so you can come by our booth starting tomorrow. In fact, we're giving away free information on your genetics if you come by our booth, but we also sell kits to get your full perspective on nutrition. We also have ones on fitness and behavior, and so you can check it out.
That's fantastic. I want to thank all of you. You are all really good at fact-checking and being engaged. I think what this panel and this interaction really does is reminds us that we have to be diligent about how we eat, you know, understanding how our food is produced and where it comes from, and really knowing that there's a lot of misinformation out there, and that puts a lot of onus on us as eaters and consumers. But thankfully, we have experts to turn to, including the folks on the stage and many of the folks who will be at South by this week. I want to give a round of applause to all of you and to our panelists. Thank you so much.